Sorry, just had to make sure you're alive. Yes, this meeting was posted in all the usual spots, schoolhouse doors, eVirgin, Village Hall, online, and media were notified, as well as it was posted in the local paper, the Westine, per the statute.
Thank you, Mike. Agenda revisions, approval? Need,
Motion to approve the agenda for tonight's budget meeting.
go ahead.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we need to appoint a secretary for the budget hearing and annual meeting.
Nominate Natalie, our secretary for tonight's meeting.
Can't hear you, please. We can't hear anything. Please use your mic so we can hear.
I nominate Natalie to take over as secretary for tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Natalie, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. Our secretary for the budget hearing and annual meeting will be Natalie. Next, we move to the budget hearing and update. Mike.
Yes, so here we are. It's been a year since last time we met, and we've done a lot of work. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about some things we've been up to around the following topics: our strategic planning, a little bit of our staff structure and changes, some things to celebrate, and our ongoing work. We met last year on our strategic planning team and took a look at and revised and reviewed some things. We established that we love our vision. It's ambition, belief, character. It's been in place for a long time. We're looking forward to living up to that expectation this school year. Our mission, which was set in place last year, is empowering all students by nurturing a culture of academic excellence, igniting curiosity, and cultivating perseverance within a supportive community. We have our strategic planning still underway. The outlook, it takes a look at things for 3 to 5 years. It has us working in buckets or different teams that are focused on things that are important to the community, things that will keep propelling us forward. So we're looking at 4 buckets being educated. Each one has a different topic and different staff are involved in that. If there's 100% staff input on this, we had our process for community input on the front end, and then we'll have a review process over the next coming years. Each year we'd like to have an annual review of it, so we'll start to look forward. It's hard after a year to have that review, but after this coming year, we'll do more revision and review to those goals, and you'll have that available to you if you want to engage. Some people in this room were a part of those discussions, and I appreciate that. The 4 buckets are educational experiences, culture and climate, financial management, and safety and infrastructure. Tonight, and I think over the last year, you've seen a huge improvement in our financial management bucket, which seems like it's run pretty much alone by Jeff, but we're all involved in that. Our board's done a great job of stepping into the role of making sure we know where our finances are and where our future lies with our funding. So it's important that the board has a good grasp on that, given some things we've struggled with. We had some changes. We had 2 retirements this past year, a couple of staples, Ms. Stock and Mr. Wolf, retired from our faculty. Those are big holes that are left, but we have got students showing up in August, and we've got to hire the best and move forward as best we can. We have Ms. Betker, as I mentioned before in our previous meeting, who was hired as a new ELA teacher. Ms. Cassidy Hine is the new social studies teacher for middle school, and our new Phi Ed teacher is Mr. Kyle Diedrich, who is a fairly local guy. New special education teacher, Ms. Sadler. We were able to reconfigure as a result of making music, adding .25 to music and making Miss Walsh whole again. We were able to also make Miss O'Hara whole again, but those were 2 part-time reductions we had made last year because of some of the budget concerns. After looking at our numbers and reconfiguring budget and economizing, we were able to put those positions back to full-time, which is good for staff retention. We also were able to reconfigure our block schedule at the middle school. We had concerns over time. Last year we cut back. Middle school did away with learning blocks of 90 minutes and made them 45s. With a 45-minute, you're learning half as much as the 90 for those math people in the room. But also we noticed that we have concerns over what our kids were getting for an experience. Is 45 minutes enough time for us to get the information we have to get across? And the answer resoundingly was no from the middle school staff. So we had to find ways to reconfigure our schedule and rework it, and we did find ways to successfully do that. We also additionally this year have reassessed our special education caseloads, and we're adding a halftime teacher. One of our teachers is going for his special ed certification, Mr. Iwanski. Mr. I has been here for the last 2 years in different roles. So he'll be 50% special ed teacher, 50% special ed para. So we're being creative and working within the license parameters that the state of Wisconsin provides us to allow us to have a halftime teacher. Otherwise, it would be near impossible to find a halftime special ed teacher, but we're being creative and using our talents of our people who want to help us out. So thanks to Mr. I for that. We're going to continue with online world language instruction because that's the best we can do right now, given our staffing model, but it's something that we're looking at in the future to try and enhance our middle school experience at least. 6-12, you're supposed to have language available to kids. We did have several students who completed we used Rosetta Stone, and that was completed for them, and they were able to test into Spanish at the high school as high as they can, which was good. Most of our students just had a little dabble, and then they go to high school and have an initial Spanish 1 experience as they would normally have. And so again, at the bottom, we were able to add those 2 jobs back from smaller to full-time, which is really important for staff, as I mentioned.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you talk about block scheduling, did you go back to 90 minutes, or are you in between
Yes.
that? You're back to 90?
Yes. So we're excited to be able to provide that for reading and math. And then obviously the other classes have little splits differently, but it's really helpful to have that learning block available to them. Come on. Here we go. Thought you said your clicker was
You
dead.
have to point it to the thing.
Yeah. I'll talk nice to you. Thank you. Things to celebrate. We had a great year last year with our state report card. As many of you know, 87.3 is nothing to balk at. Certainly proud of the progress we've made. It was the top in Racine County, which we're really proud of. Looking forward to seeing where our scores are this year, although we don't know. Obviously, we'll do some analysis once we get those scores back from the state. We really have maintained a very positive culture of support for one another as we've navigated through the challenges of life right now. There's a lot of tough stuff going on in the world, and so our staff in these walls does a great job with kids, and they do a great job supporting each other strongly in our culture. We have a strong arts program. We have high interest, high quality. We have the good problem of telling a kid you can't do everything we possibly offer. You can't fit it all in your day. We've got good kids that want to do all the stuff. So it's great to have a lot of high interest in our stuff. Sports and clubs are very active and engaged. We have multiple teams for various grade levels we have. So middle school often doesn't just have an A team, they have an A team and a B team because we have kids engaged. Our clubs are growing as well, and we're really excited about that.
You're not streaming anymore.
Okay, I'm presenting right now, so I'll fix it when I get a chance. Panther Pride and Summer School have solid enrollment. We really are very happy with the wraparound services that our students experience for after-school care, and then in the summer, Ms. Waldron and Ms. Kerber do an outstanding job with our little ones, keeping them around school. And summer school, it is nice to see everybody around here. We had a good enrollment, 130 kids roughly this summer who came in and had a great 3-week experience learning about space. And so looking forward to what that brings this coming year. We have continued fiscal oversights in place. We have monthly committee work that our board is engaging in, and we're very transparent in our finances, and so it's been really nice to see the evolution of that as Jeff has come on board and has a pretty high bar for the things he provides us, so very happy with that. We're engaging in our strategic plan and moving forward overall, and last but not least, probably the most important, our students are pretty awesome, and so we're really looking forward to getting out of summer mode. Summer mode is where I live my most dangerous life because I'm thinking about everything all the time as it relates to the year, but you're not actually living the year. So getting into the year with kids here is really important. Otherwise, we overthink everything. So we're really very proud of all the things we're doing. Some of the stuff we're working on this year, we're going to work with our new teaching and learning coordinator to do some things that she will bring with her experiences, and she can assess and see what she wants to help have an impact on. We're going to continue to provide the supports for our students and build that culture of support. We're gonna be positive and collaborate with each other and figure out ways to provide solutions for kids. We are moving to Act 89 compliance with the Parent Square app, as I mentioned in a previous meeting. We are budget conscious living. We're making sure that we're living within our means and planning as much as we can for the future, continuing with our building and facilities projects, as well as try to figure out a plan through the feasibility task force to come up with what Raymond needs and how to get it. So we're really excited. We've had 3 meetings so far with our task force. So lots of things going on and looking forward to another great school year. Sure.
Mike, the question was asked of me. Are people still able to join feasibility task force?
Yes.
Okay.
The feasibility task force is a fluid thing. We'd like you to come to as many as you can, but if you want to join now and start to provide your perspective, absolutely come. The tab is still open on the website, or you can reach out to Natalie, and she'll add you to our list, and that adds you to the emails, and we'll go from there. And all those meetings are also open, so if you don't want to jump on, but you still want to attend, it's kind of like you're on the committee without being on the committee, and it's a pretty open dialogue. So if you were to be in the audience and say something, we're not going to ignore it.
So before I continue the presentation, we'll do the treasurer's report. So it's in the packet. So in your packet, it'll say treasurer's report, and then it'll have a fiscal year 26-27. That's the year of the report. It's technically for the fiscal year of 25-26. The treasurer's report for the annual meeting is sort of the bigger picture. So you'll have to find the annual meeting packet.
Right here.
Thank you. So what the treasury report for the annual meeting, if you were at the regular meeting, you saw a lot more detail. This is sort of the bigger picture. The bigger picture has our 4 accounts that we have. So we have our checking account, the money market account, our investment account. We actually have an LGIP account too. It's an investment account. When I got here a year ago, I decided to do the WISC account because I think it's managed a little bit better. So those are our cash balances like I would give you in a normal treasurer's report. And then the Fund 21 cash balance, and you saw some of those in the July meeting. And so those are our 5 bank accounts that we hold. So then we have the general fund, the beginning fund balance of our general fund. So at the end of 24-25, am I saying that right? Beginning of 25-26, we started with $677,941. That was our beginning fund balance. So again, a bigger picture, revenues are in big buckets. So local sources, mostly taxes, interdistrict payments, that's mostly open enrollment revenue. There's other things involved in these, but these are the bigger buckets. State aid, and then federal aid, which is grants. Most of that is a small rural schools grant, and then other sources that are miscellaneous revenue that comes in during the year. I might know about it, I might not. So then our revenue for the 25-26 year is shown there at 5.6 million. And then the next page shows the expenses, again in bigger buckets. So instruction, anything that has to do with teaching kids, and then support is like administrators and facilities and special ed. And then non-program transactions is mostly open enrollment out. And then the vouchers, so that's an expense, a bigger bucket expense. So those 3 buckets, 5.6 million. So we ended with a fund balance of 756,000. And the reason why it's a little different is because sometimes there's expenses that, or revenues that come in that I didn't necessarily know about. This was my first year, so I started in last July, so this is starting my second year. You know, I try to know as much as I can, but surprises happen, and some things you budget for don't get expensed, or some things go over budget. But overall, we increased our fund balance a little bit. It's not audited yet. The auditors came, our stuff matches, they just have to do some adjustments. And then you have the other funds, so the special project funds. So that's that's Fund 27, Special Ed, and it's the Student Activity Fund. those funds are combined in the required reporting. And then the debt service funds, that's Fund 38 and Fund 37. Most of that is Fund 38, but the fund balances are held both in Fund 38 and Fund 39. And the next one also says debt service fund. That's a mistake. That's supposed to be the community service fund. So last year we levied $10,000 in the community service fund. I had some plans to do some things, and then we started our facility study. I didn't want to do some work and then it get all ripped up. So I just paused on that. We're not levying this year for community service, but we're holding that revenue for when we really need it, and I know that it's going to be put to good use. So that's the treasurer's report. So if you want to go back to the presentation. Went out of order a little bit, but that's okay. So for everybody here, what I gave you in your packet is something that I like to do because I like to give you everything I possibly can. So I give you a description of how Wisconsin accounting works, how funds work. So most of the stuff in the present, I'd say like 95% that's in the presentation is in that packet, in your packet. And it's just an easier way, I think, for me to communicate. And I tried to do it in the simplest form possible. I mean, Wisconsin finance is complicated. And the weird thing about it is that, so we have our annual meeting, but I really don't know the exact numbers until October 15th. So on October 15th, DPI comes out with their general equalization aid. October 1st, all your values are set. So unless we have the meeting after that point, but the problem is that you only then have a couple weeks to finalize everything. So it's also better to have the annual meeting. You have to set a levy if you want to borrow. So that's why we moved it from October to August, is because when we have to short-term borrow, we have to set a levy first. So the levy that we're going to set today is might not be the levy that we'll end up with on October 15th. So the meeting after October 15th will set the final levy, and then that will be set. That will be what we're going to go with everything. And so I just got from Baird today that the state average of increase of your homes, of your properties, is 7%. So I had budgeted for 2%. It's possible that your properties could go up another 20%. But you just never know. A lot of it's inflationary, but we do our best to communicate how school finances work. So that's what I'm going to explain today. So we have a couple of objectives. So just going through state budget, enrollment, staffing, expenses and revenues, and then just some comparisons for our property values, our tax levies, and then some comparisons. And I have access to this here. Oh. So the first thing, how the state budget impacts us. So last year, special ed was reimbursed at 38.39%. They say it's going to be, they keep saying it's going to be higher and higher, but I'm pretty confident that it might actually be 40% this time. So that's what I'm budgeting for. Per pupil, state aid hasn't increased in a really long time. That's $742 per student. It's per resident student. So for our residents, our revenue limit for Raymond is going up to $12,367. So every resident student in our tax levy, we can levy $12,367. And then our state aid this year projected to go down, mostly because of the fluctuations we've had in our expenses and the fluctuation in the equalization aid for your properties have gone up pretty high. So they get the impression that we're property rich. So then sometimes state equalization aid goes down. That's not the number that's going to be final, but I think it's going to be pretty close. Vouchers, again, every district pays has a voucher expense for students that go to a different school on vouchers. Open enrollment revenue is going up. So it's going up from $10,877 to $11,305. So that's pretty significant for open enrollment students' revenue. It helps a lot when we're just filling in the gaps for some of our classes. Mike, could you just go back? I can't point to your computer. So total student enrollment, this was done in July because I have to get all this out to the paper 10 days beforehand, actually 15 days beforehand, so it can be in the paper on time. So 385, and I was looking at our enrollment. It actually might be a little higher from registration. So right now, this is what I have budgeted for. That's where I'm at with total student enrollment. Total staffing, we have, some of these are percentages, so they're not necessarily like a 1 FTE, but we have 58 people that are working for the school in some way. For instance, I'm 0.5 of a person, but there's still technically 3 administrators. So then we get into our big buckets for revenue. Again, these are just big buckets. It's showing you the audited number for 24-25. It says unaudited, even though our numbers match. They wouldn't have left. The auditors wouldn't have left if it didn't match. But it's not the final number. And then the budget number. So again, local sources, mostly taxes, interdistrict payments, mostly open enrollment, state sources, federal sources, and then other sources. So that's where I have projected revenue. You want to click the next one. So for those of you like, again, visual learners, so the percentages, federal, state, interdistrict, and local. So half of our revenue comes from the community, and then mostly the other half comes from state sources, and then mostly open enrollment. Again, for those of you that went to the meeting before, our cash position, again, is ups and downs. Again, you see October, November, and December, we don't have a lot of revenue coming in. It comes in January and February and June mostly. So expenses, again, the 3 big buckets: instruction, support services, and then the open enrollment out and vouchers and special ed. In the board meetings, if you were at the board meeting, I break it out significantly more, but for the purposes here, I just don't want to, take an hour and a half of your time. So this is where we're just in big buckets as far as this goes. I do have it broken down a little bit on the next one, so you can kind of see where salaries, benefits, purchase services is work done for us. But also included in that is open enrollment out and vouchers. And then non-capital objects are mostly supplies and technology. Capital objects over $5,000, not budgeted for doing any of that, any one item over $5,000 this year. Short-term debt, that's interest on our short-term borrowing. And then insurance, district insurance, that's not health insurance. And then transfers to other funds, that's special ed. So special ed gets revenue from the state and other sources. Anything that's not reimbursed has to come out of the general fund. So that's where that transfer comes from. And then fees and other objects. So then our expenditure budget at $5.9 million, both revenues and expenses are the same. So presenting you with a balanced budget. So again, visual learners that like pie charts. Salaries at 42%, budgeted for. Benefits 17%. So about 60% of our expenses is salaries and benefits. And then purchase services, which is again open enrollment out. That's our biggest purchase service. When you have to fix the roof or something, that's also a purchase service. And then supplies is very small. So when teachers say, "Well, do we have enough money to buy stuff for our classrooms?" It's 3% of our total expenses. So my answer is always yes, if any teachers are watching. So maybe not always, but I'd say most of the time. Because I worked very hard at Yorkville to get the teachers what they need to you spend so much money on buildings and stuff like that. it's really that getting the supplies and getting what teachers needs in their hands. So that's one of my goals for myself.
If I could just add, it confuses people because we've had a few staff meetings recently where Jeff has said, if you need it, get it. And then they kind of look at you like, are you kidding? So again, we really are trying to live that creed. I think it's working out well. And you can tell we have a lot of Amazon boxes ready for the first day of school, but it's been good to get teachers what they need for those kids.
So then special ed again, revenues is not too complicated. There's something called transit aid, which the districts that share services like the occupational therapist that you approved today, we actually have to exchange our aid between districts, so that it's kind of a weird wash that happens. It's kind of like, you know, exchanging money, but you have to technically do it a certain way. And then state aid and federal aid. Federal aid is mostly IDAA. It's called flow through. Where the federal government gives us about $90,000 to for some special ed expenses. So, and then the expenses, the bigger budget, special ed revenues have to match the expenses. So anything that has to do with instruction, teachers, mostly teachers and benefits, support services, anything else, we do you know, transportation and stuff like that for special ed. Guidance, and then non-program transactions, we do share a lot of services between the districts, so that's where that expense comes from. Fund 21, again, is our student activity account. If you notice in 24-25, there wasn't a lot of activity. We weren't using Fund 21 properly, in my opinion, so we did a lot of work with Fund 21 last year. I don't budget for expenses and revenues in Fund 21 just because it's so difficult to predict, you know, how much you're going to take in concessions and stuff like that. So there's no budget necessarily in Fund 21. And then debt service, Fund 38 and Fund 39, we have a fund balance. Those two are debt. We still have $100,000 in Fund 39, so that's where some of that fund balance comes from. Revenues, so the revenues are coming from Fund 38. Because we have 3 state trust fund loans that need to be paid, and then so then those sort of explaining the expenses for those, and then the expenditures don't match the revenues because the levy is in a different fiscal year than the budget, so that's why they don't necessarily match. Community service fund again. Didn't use any of it last year just because I just didn't want to waste it, to be honest with you. So it's going to live there. I'm not levying for Fund 80 this year, but it is there when we need it. And I think depending on what the facility study says, I'll be looking into some of those funds to use them. So here's our tax levy. So again, the levy is there's two things involved. It's the general fund. So anything that has to do with operations, Fund 27, Fund 21, not Fund 21, Fund 10 and Fund 27. So all of the teachers, mostly all the teachers in the school, anything that's not necessarily debt. And then the non-referendum debt service fund, which is that Fund 38. So that is a required levy for us. That I have no choice. It's just a calculation of our debt payments. And so those two numbers, not levying in our community service fund this year, so those two numbers added together is the $2.94 million. So the next one is the tax impact. So I just gave you some history of what we've had at Raymond. So our property values starting in 2021 at $550 million, projected at $812 million for this upcoming year. And then you see the levies. So the levies there, that's the money that is collected in taxes spread out over all your properties. And then the mill rate is a calculation of, so you take a $400,000 property, how many thousands are in those, and then you multiply it by the mill rate, which is 3.62. So if you have a $400,000 property, I know many of you have a higher valued property than that. But I had to pick a number, so that's the number I picked. So for the whole fiscal year, a $400,000 property, the Raymond portion would be $1448. Now this will probably change if your value goes up more than 2%. That the mill rate goes down, and then it depends on how high it's complicated, but it depends how high your value. If your value of your house goes up, 20%, then there's nothing that I can do about it, unfortunately. But that's where I'm living right now in the budget. So then I like to do this, give you a little breakdown of what it is, especially if we end up having Fund 39 debt, which is referendum debt. So out of the $3.62, $3.29 of it is paying for basically everything that happens at the school, and then 33 cents of that is debt. And then here's a little history of your tax levy and mill rate again. So the property value, I went back a little farther to 2014, the tax levy, and then the mill rate, which says per 1,000, and then the change. So if you notice, it kind of fluctuates. It really fluctuates based on your property value. That's the main driver in the mill rate, and the tax levy sometimes has to do with some general aid, but for the most part, the tax levy has stayed between $2 and $3 million, or $2 and $4 million. There's a couple of years in there, in 2021, where your debt was falling off, and so that's where the decreases in tax levy and mill rate happened. So here's a comparison of the mill rate from other districts around us: Yorkville, Union Grove High School, Union Grove Elementary, Raymond, and Kansasville. So if you notice the equalized property value, so this was this last year. This is not, I only kind of know Yorkville's. I don't know the other schools. They don't make those published until their annual meeting. But if you notice the high school pulls from all of these other schools. That's why their property value, the property value of the high school and the mill rate is lower, because they're pulling from all the properties. So $2 billion instead of 700 million. So that's why you see a bigger number there for Union Grove High School under the total equalized property value. And then last year's tax levy for each one of the schools, the last referendum that was passed, I just like to throw that in there just so you have an idea. And then the membership average is a rolling average of three years, and that's where a lot of the levy, the revenue limit, were allowed to the community can use for supporting the school. So just the last look at it. So these two, the levy will be set today. You'll vote on the levy in the annual meeting, and then on October 15th, I'll get a final okay to make sure that the levy is correct. I don't have a lot of choice in it. The only thing that we could do is under levy. As soon as you under levy, you're saying that you have way too much money, and you can give some of it back to the community. It's pretty unusual to do that, especially in our situation where we're going to try to use every dollar this year. So this is the last look at the levy again, which again will most likely change after October 15th at that meeting. So I just show this to you because there's a lot of school districts that pull from other communities. So for instance, Yorkville pulls from Dover and for a portion of Raymond. So Raymond is unique because we're only pulling from Raymond. So we're not pulling from Dover, we're not pulling from any other village or town, we're just pulling from Raymond. So Raymond is the only one that can support Raymond. Okay. I know I went fast. So it's a lot of information to throw at you, and you're probably like, some of you are probably, not too interested, but it just depends I just have to give it to you, and I think it's important that at least you know. You can read the packet that I gave you. It kind of goes through things a lot slower. Feel free to read it. But just opening up to questions since it is a community meeting. Okay. Anyone?
Do I do that? Yeah, Doré Moonen has questions on financials.
Okay.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Could you come to the microphone so we can hear you?
Okay.
Okay. My question is in Wisconsin statutes, it does say school lunches, we're supposed to vote on to direct the board to furnish school lunches to the pupils of the school district and appropriate funds for that purpose. My question is we're not showing anywhere the funds that we're collecting or the funds that we're, giving for the purpose of getting the lunches.
Yep.
What are the auditors saying when you're not doing that?
So the food service agreement, there's something called an alternate food service agreement. It is unusual in this area, the 5 schools, I mean, is it 4 schools? 5 schools. So what has happened, I think before 5 years ago, each one of the schools, so this is North Cape and Yorkville and Drought and Kansasville and Raymond and York, and so they all had their own sort of expense accounting and fund, it's called Fund 50.
Right.
And so what happened is when we went to the National School Lunch Program, they allow us to do something called an alternate school food service authority, which basically says that one school can be the fiscal agent and can hold the accounting, and then it holds all of the responsibility. So for instance, when that happened in 21-22, we went to the National School Lunch Program because our expenses were, when I first got to Yorkville, we were like $60,000 in the hole for the food service account. And so I had to do something slightly drastic. And so what happens is in the Yorkville accounting, all of the deposits, so we share all 5 schools share a bank account. And so in the Yorkville accounting, each one of those schools has their own location. So Yorkville's 800, and then Raymond is 802, and Drought is 803, and Kansasville is 804. And so all those deposits go into liability, and then all the expense is expense per meal and is also reimbursed per meal in that location. So all of the expense and revenue is technically held by Yorkville because they're the fiscal agent. So just because Raymond doesn't hold the Fund 50, we're still responsible for, doing all of the deposits, and then Yorkville pays the bill essentially, and then divides all of the food, the meals, the free lunches, and divides that and accounts for it in Yorkville.
So my question is what happens if there's a certain time where the consortium comes back and says, oh, we didn't charge you enough? Who pays for that? You know what I'm saying? Understand what I'm saying?
It's pretty, so it's a federal program, so it's very strict. So there's not any situation where that happens. The only thing that happens is if we have a balance at the end of the year that's negative, then it takes away from some of the revenue for Raymond's location.
Okay.
So I know it's complicated and it's probably not a good answer,
Well, I know a lot of people say, well, we have a lunch program, but we don't see it being shown anywhere.
right.
And that's what people are asking. And
Yeah.
of course,
I can
asked to do it.
I can bring the Yorkville. I report it to the Yorkville board every month. I can bring that here too.
Yeah, that would be a good idea because then
Yeah.
people can see it.
Absolutely.
And then I have another thing. Keith brought up Data Wrangler the other day. Where are you keeping track of Data Wrangler that we would be able to see what is going on there? Because the gentleman mentioned that he's gotten us grants. We don't know exactly what the original cost was, the grants that have come in, what the cost is for the amount we're paying every month. Because, you know, obviously that's an expense, but we're not seeing it on the books anywhere.
So what you'll see for that is their vendor name is called Clockworks. So you'll see it on the checks, it'll say Clockworks. So they charge us $500 a month. And depending when I pay the bill, I try to pay it every month on time, but it'll say Clockworks. It doesn't say Data Wrangler. And then we got a Focus on Energy grant, and so I can find which month that was. It was basically for the lighting, and what Bob did with the lighting is he purchased those at Menards. I think I would have to go back and check how much how much the cost was for them, but that was probably in a credit card somewhere. But I can get that too.
Okay, because I'm wondering how much,
How much savings?
if it's our benefit to pay $6,000 a year
Right.
for
Right.
them, and how much are we actually getting back? Because
Right.
he did mention at the meeting that he has not told us yet how much the increase is dollars and cents wise for the food program that was supposedly the reason we took this last year in July, was to separate that cash out. And according to that, we don't know that that's been done yet.
Yeah, they give us a report on how much energy the kitchen is using.
Well, he made a claim that he didn't know, that he
Well-
would have to come in on a Sunday.
Yeah, he
and
doesn't
turn
do it.
everything on.
He doesn't. I don't think he does it by dollar. I think he. I would have to look at the report, but it's the whatever thing they put in sort of tracks. I think it gives you like how much it costs. It doesn't say how much it saves. So it'll like break it down by the dishwasher costs like $59 or whatever, but it doesn't like this. It's the actual invoice for We Energies is pretty complicated, and they don't give you a lot of.
Right, I realize that, but my question is where are we showing that the other consortium people are paying for part of the electricity?
They're not.
They're not, so we're footing the bill.
Yeah, everybody's paying their
Okay.
own electricity for their lunches, for
Okay.
their food service.
Because that was something that, when this first came out, that was
Yeah,
what was
it's
discussed.
hard because we don't make any money on food service. Like the only way,
Exactly.
yeah. So the only way we could make money is if we charge a lot, and I'd rather not charge a lot for food, and like get a good product. So that's the hard part. Is I would love to be able to make $15,000 on how much we're spending on electricity, but unfortunately it can't. The food service account can't really do that.
Okay, and I have one more question. The funds that we had for capital expenditures at $104,000.
Yep.
You took that out of the account that it was in, but according to the Wisconsin state statutes, it says all money raised through taxation or otherwise collected pursuant to the subsection shall be deposited by the school district treasurer in a segregated fund.
No,
That's not being done.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. I got it right.
It doesn't have to be a segregated fund.
What makes it not have to be a segregated fund?
It is a segregated fund, but it's not a segregated bank account. So it is. So it's Fund 39. I moved it from it also says that you're really not supposed to have interest on it. That's one of the reasons I moved it. That's not the only reason. That's one of the reasons. So I moved it out of we had a savings account, and it was probably old. So I moved it to the general checking, but it still is in Fund 39. You're absolutely correct. You cannot move that Fund $39 into Fund 10. But the bank account still holds it. So it's the same thing with Fund 27. That has to be, for special ed, that has to be completely separate fund.
Okay.
Fund 38, same thing. So you're absolutely right. It's just, you can still put it in the same bank account.
Okay, and
So-
since it's been sitting there for such a long time and we haven't used it,
Yep.
I'm asking the board to consider moving it into another account and putting it on. From what I understand, it then gets subtracted from what you're collecting from the taxpayers for the year,
Well-
and then you can use it. I just think it's a waste to be sitting there for all these years when it's obvious there's $100,000 would go a long ways in helping the school at this time.
I think it's only being held there since 2022.
That's 4
I-
years, that's a long
yeah.
time.
I also understand that it's referendum debt
Yeah,
that was not,
I'll-
so
I
it's
can
got,
look-
it's got stipulations that it's gotta be used for
Right.
future referendum.
So
So
the-
if we were to levy for referendum dollars or have a bond issuance, then it actually would kick in as additional, we could actually use that money. For now, because we're not under referendum at all, we can't.
Yeah,
So,
the plan will be is there's some weird things that happen when you get a bond, and I'm very hopeful that in the next couple of years, we'll get some sort of bond. You can prepay to get a bond before the bond. It's called a bond anticipation note. So that's one of my, that's one of the reasons why I'm moving it, because that will help immensely in doing this bond before the bond, essentially.
So what is the bond supposed to be used for then?
So the bond is referendum money, so it's, so like you said, so if we happen to get referendum funds, like a bond, we can take that $100,000 and subtract it from the first levy.
Okay,
Yep,
okay,
that's a good question, though.
thank you.
I do also want to invite any community members who wish to come to one of our facilities meetings. We talk about Data Wrangler, Clockworks Data Wrangler, pretty extensively. And the gentleman that came doesn't own Clockworks. That's why his answer was probably, I don't know, for some things, because he didn't want to overcommit. But we are inviting the owner into a future conversation because obviously Keith had raised some questions. We want to make sure everyone understands the use of that Data Wrangler tool. And is there, a point when it's helping us or a point when it's cost neutral or ineffective? So certainly a work in the progress for this year.
Another thing with the energy assistance that they do, that is a separate program from DataWorks or Data Wrangler, Clockworks. But they are able to help us get those energy assistant dollars because we have to be able to show it in a certain way to the state to get those energy things back. So it helps us get those funds back through the energy center.
Is there any way we can learn what they're doing? I mean,
Yes,
You can come to a meeting.
when's the next one the data wrangler's gonna be at? I was at the last one.
You were not at the last facilities meeting, but you certainly can come to that. We'll post it. I don't know offhand when it is, but it'll be publicly posted like they all are. And I invite you to come.
Are we good? Okay. I think we're good.
Are there any other questions? I'd like to thank Jeff Genovese, our Director of Business Services, for presenting the annual budget for the 2026-2027 school year. If there are no more questions, a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. It is 7:51. Okay. We now move into the annual meeting of the Raymond School District number 14 on this Tuesday, October 14th. Whoops. Oh, that's a typo. Not Tuesday, October 14th. Okay, this meeting is now called to order. And as this is a meeting of the electors of the district, we will need to nominate a chairperson to reside over the meeting. And at this time, the floor is now open for any nominations.
I nominate Janelle for chairperson.
Is there a second?
Yep.
We have a motion and a second to nominate Janelle Wise.
Yes.
Janelle, do you accept this position?
Yes.
She does. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Dory Monin.
Is there a second?
She's hard of hearing, she's having a hard time hearing you guys, that's why she's not answering. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second for Dory Moonen. Dory, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Okay. With that, we will take a vote. All those in favor of Janelle Wise, please raise your hands. And we need a counter.
I'll be the counter.
Thirteen?
And all those in favor of Dory Moonen, please raise your hand.
Six?
Janelle Wise is the chairperson for this meeting. You may have the gavel.
Those other two didn't raise their hand, right? Just the six hands.
Yes, we can.
Gavel them, buddy. You want one of them?
All right, so moving on to item number 3, adoption of the meeting minutes from the annual meeting on October 14th, 2025.
I think that's a miss.
No, this was, we have to approve last year's annual meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Keith.
I'll second it.
Thank you. So I have Keith motioned, Ed second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, we need to do hand council at once. We need to do hand council.
Yep, we're okay.
All right, so moving on to new business. First item is Resolution A, the salary for members of the Board of Education.
I'll make a motion to leave it the same.
Thank you. Keith motioned to maintain the salaries from 2025 and 2026. Doré seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Resolution B, authorize the Board of Education to provide school fund service program. Do I need to read the be it resolved, please? The details of those.
Yes, please read the resolution.
So resolution, be it resolved that the following salaries be set for board member, for the Board of Education, and that they are reimbursed actual and necessary expense when traveling in the performance of their duties as board members. Each member, dollar value is $2,350. Board president, $2,350. Board clerk, $2,450. Board treasurer, $2,350. And it was,
I think you made an
Yeah.
error, just the clerk is $100 more than the others.
didn't I read that one?
Yeah.
I read it.
What it says.
2,450.
Did you? I wasn't, okay.
And it was motioned by Keith, seconded by DeRay. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution B, be it resolved that the Board of Education is authorized to contract to maintain a school food service program for the pupils attending Raymond School. Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Thanks, Mike. Have a second? There we go. Thank you. What was your name again? I'm so sorry. I cannot do anything on the spot like this.
You're fine.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Audrey, your job is nerve-wracking. All right. Resolution C. Be it resolved that the Board of Education is authorized to purchase, operate, and maintain pupil transportation vehicles and to purchase liability insurance for such vehicles or to finance contracts for the use and services of student transportation vehicles.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Jenny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Keith. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Resolution D. That there will be and hereby is levied upon all of the taxable property of the Raymond School District Number 14, a tax in the sum of $2,940,278 to pay the ordinary and necessary expenses for conducting school in said district during the school year 2026-2027. Do I have a motion? Or am I just setting that? That's a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Sue. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. Next up is setting the annual meeting date for 2027. The suggested date is Monday, August 16th at 6 p.m.
So just a quick clarification, to next year to do the annual meeting first and then the regular meeting. The reason for that is you set the levy and then you can set the short-term borrow immediately after in the regular meeting. So that's the reason for that change.
So start at 6 and then the regular meeting would be at 7 p.m. Got it. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve what Mr.
Can you
Denisi
clarify
said.
the date?
Monday,
August
August 16th, 2027?
16th or the 17th?
Monday is the 16th and 27th.
Monday is the 16th and 27th.
16th, okay. I think it works.
So Jenny, you motioned to approve.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mike? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item number 6, is there any other business which may be properly considered under the powers of the annual meeting? Yes, Ray?
I'd like to know what our current policy is in paying liability insurance, considering we have 3 lawsuits now we're in. I'd like to know what last year amount we budgeted and according to this year, because I know now we have a different insurance company and it's higher. And whatever the deductible is, I'd like to know that.
We have the same insurance company, and so the insurance company is, right now, we don't pay invoices for the services. The insurance is paying for that first. Sometimes you pay for the invoice first and they reimburse you. That is not the case with the insurance company that we have, and it's the same one we had last year.
Okay, so what's the limit that they will pay?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know. We use Community Insurance Corporation. It's CIC. It's a national conglomerate that clusters all the insurance together. So we have not changed that insurance carrier. We changed other insurances this year from our dental to our health to our, business pieces, but not that particular insurance. That's held true. So we certainly could, I don't have that number offhand. I don't know the coverages, but we have not, as Jeff said, we have not received an invoice for any of the legal counsel that we have obtained through our current litigation.
Is there any other business to consider? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Mike? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. It looked like our live stream got back online, too. It's been on for an hour.